So, welcome to Order of the Luminaria, and today we're going to be talking about deity work and daemon work. So, you have your spiritual hygiene down. You have your, cleansing your items before they go on your altar, cleanse ground center and shielding yourself. You're cleansing your house twice a month. You have wards set up. So, we're going to talk about starting deity daemon work. And I have a method that I think is really, really, really helpful for the formation of a long-term beneficial, mutual respect and trust relationship with deities and daemons. And here's the method. Always start with offerings because they're safest. And if you're going to ask me about tricksters, if you have your wards set up properly, you should be fine. So my recommendation when you first start with a deity or daemon is to start with a sigil of theirs or their name or whatever I paint mine on a canvas. They're really pretty, and I feel like the gods appreciate the fact that I put effort into crafting it on my own. Or a piece of printer paper where I paint it in their colors and I draw the sigil on it. Super easy. I'm not an artist, trust me. I couldn't draw a symmetrical stick figure to save my life. But I paint a little sigil and I get a chime candle, a spell candle of their color correspondence. And I'm going to tell you why I use a chime candle in a second instead of like a large deity candle. So I set the chime candle up and the sigil, and if you want to anoint it with oil or offer them some wine or whatever their offerings correspond with, I set it up and I light the candle. And I use a chime candle because I let the candle burn all the way out on its own. And why do I do that? Because chime candles burn for anywhere between an hour to 2 hours. And what I do during that time is I turn the lights off in my room, I put the electronics away, and I just sit there, and staring at a candle flame is a great way to go into meditative trance. I stare at the candle flame, I close my eyes and meditate, I read a spiritual book, and I use that time to sit in the energy of that offering and of that deity. And why do I do this? Well, first off, I like to build a relationship before I start asking for things. So I leave offerings for a while before I start asking for help in certain things. I want to build that relationship of mutual trust. Secondly, I want to know what their energy feels like. Clairsentience is a very common spiritual gift. A lot of people have it. It's basically, if you're an empath, you can become clairsentient. So I'm sitting in that energy and I'm starting to recognize what the atmosphere feels like, right? So if somebody walks in my house and they're angry, I feel that, right? Even if I don't look at them necessarily, I can feel the vibe, bad vibes, right? The vibe changes. So I sit and I feel the atmosphere of that deity's presence and how the atmosphere changes, how the energy changes, what the room feels like. Is it heavy and intense and awesome, or is it a pulling, like kindness or whatever? So I do this a couple times a week, and I give these offerings and I just sit there with the energy, because it helps me to familiarize myself with what that deity or daemon feels like. And that's important, because when you see a sign or you get an idea and suddenly you feel that energy again, then you know, like, oh, this is something that the spirit approves of, or that they are giving to me as inspiration, something that they want me to do. And then you can go ahead and confirm with tarot cards, pendulum, runes, whatever you want to do. Even divining by candle flame, water, black mirror, whatever you use. And so it becomes really easy to communicate with the spirits that you work with when you are dedicating time to just getting to know them energetically. Sometimes I'll keep a journal and write down things that I think about while I'm in that. I'll bring some tarot cards and pull some tarot cards. You have a message for me, whatever. So that is my recommendation for anybody who wants to start deity work. And I suggest that they do it one at a time so they get a really good handle on the differences and different energies. And then the second thing I recommend for people doing deity work is consecrated oils. So this is a traditional and generational demonolatry practice. And what they do is they take an oil, they infuse it with herbs that represent that deity or daemon, and then they add a drop of their blood. And that is an oil for just you and that entity. You are not to put that oil on anybody else. Obviously, don't put it on your skin if there's anything poisonous in it. But so you would dress the deity's candles with this oil. You would dress spell candles that you are asking for the deity's help with that candle, but not a spell for someone else because it has your blood in it. This is an intimate oil between you and that deity. You dress their offerings in it. You anoint yourself with it when you want their help with something. And here's the good part, you consecrate a tarot deck to that deity, your anchor, your medium of communication with that deity, and you consecrate it with that oil. It has your blood and the deity's oils and herbs, and it's been blessed by them. So you create this oil, you add your blood, you light a candle, you put the oil on the altar, and you say, I consecrate and dedicate this oil to whoever. And then the chime candle, spell candle, burns out, the oil's blessed, you close it, and then you might, cleanse a new tarot deck, rub the oil on it and say, I consecrate and dedicate this deck to, right? And so these two things are going to aid in communication and learning from your spirits in the most beneficial of ways, because it helps you to learn what their energy feels like and therefore decipher what's coming from them. And it also gives you a medium in which it's, when you consecrate a tool to a deity, is just for that deity only, and it provides like a pure connection. So when you're pulling, it's of that deity's wisdom and energy. So those are my suggestions for beginner deity work that's safe, relatively not risky in any way. Of course, even stuff like this, I don't teach people unless they have their spiritual hygiene and their wards. And like I said, I think it's not just good for attachments, but it's good for your mental health, because the human brain isn't necessarily great at getting super into the spiritual. Like, we have to stay grounded too, or we get lost in the sauce. I'm sure everybody knows what I mean by that. It's happened quite a few times to many people. But not getting lost in the sauce, having that spiritual hygiene practice to keep us grounded and in the physical is important. So even before I give the instructions on how to begin with a deity or daemon with working with them, I always, the spiritual hygiene thing is still step number one. Always is, always will be. But yeah, I think that's a really great way to create something that's special between you and that daemon or deity, and it makes it so that you have this special means of communication and you're aware of what their energy feels like. And it's just a really great place to start, like a long-term mutual respect-based relationship. And I'm going to piss off the entire LHP community in one fell swoop and say that there are a great many practitioners who, even though they don't use Solomonic methods, still, in my opinion, because I'm very traditional, are disrespectful in the sense that they treat their relationships with daemons and deities as extremely transactional. They don't really care about a relationship. They want to, you do this for me, I'll give you this, cool, bye. And it's like, there's an infinite amount of wisdom and blessings that come from the infernal, divine, the left-hand path deities, and normal deities. But it's always infinitely more so when you have a solid, intimate relationship with them. And that's just my viewpoint. And so my teaching is designed to create that, instead of just like pact with this person for this, and pact with this demon for this, and pact with that demon for this, and that's not the kind of teaching you're going to get here. So, this order of the Liminaria that I've put together is about guiding you towards, your spiritual purpose, your path, illuminating that path for you. You come to us at a crossroads, and hopefully we guide you to wherever your path is supposed to be, or illuminate it for you and educate you on certain things. And so it's just, because I'm very traditional, it's just my belief that that a relationship is more beneficial in more ways than one, than a transactional one. An intimate relationship has been very magically beneficial for me versus something that's purely transactional. So yeah, I hope you guys have a blessed evening.